Traffic, this is Command, go ahead.
Plunder, true crime
briefing for the father now, are you sure?
The children's family burst into tears when the police showed up at their home this Wednesday around 1 o'clock.
That's Global News
Plunder,
reporter.
true crime audio.
Request to see
True crime audio.
Copy that. Can I just ask who's requesting?
Say again?
Plunder, true crime audio.
Copy that. Please stand by.
Contact request for an RCB officer to main case.
I'll do my best to pass that right along, Ed. Stand by.
Man, the request from Ed has been passed on to the police.
Plunder,
And there are two
true
officers
crime
heading that way right
audio.
now to speak to that individual. Command,
Station calling command. Go ahead. Over.
Sharon, what do you want to do?
Plunder, true crime
I don't understand
audio.
what you mean, Ed.
The radio Canada is at the gate.
We're working on it.
Please up to an interview.
Traffic, this is Colchester Command. Do you copy? Over.
The stepfather and brother here for
Plunder,
debriefing.
true crime
Do I have to men or
audio.
wait them? Hold them here.
Hold on one second. Traffic, do you copy? Traffic, do you copy? This is Colchester Command.
Traffic copy.
They want them sent up here, please.
If you're like me, you've probably been asking yourself what happened to Lilly and Jack, the 6-year-old and 4-year-old who went missing off of Garlock Road in Nova Scotia, Canada, more than a week ago. They were reported missing on Friday, May 2nd, and as I film this now, it's late at night, it's Tuesday, May 13th, and we finally got another update from the RCMP basically saying they're not going to give up even though they haven't found the children yet. A woman named Malia Brooks Murray is the mother of the children, and their stepdad is named Daniel Martell. And you will be hearing about Daniel a lot more because I've been researching for days and days since my last couple of videos about this case, just digging through so much dispatch audio from the Pictou County Fire VHF paging and ops dispatch because I'm trying to get to the truth, trying to figure out what's going on, reading all the publications I can. You will see I even had some Canadian French publications dubbed into English just to figure out what they were talking about.
The children's family burst into tears when the police showed up at their home this Wednesday around 1 o'clock.
And that's how I found out that Daniel and his family, whoever that was with him, I don't know, off Garlock Road, they broke down in tears, according to the reporter, when authorities brought them a map on Wednesday, May 2nd, showing Daniel just how much ground they had covered without finding the children. I have been digging through so many days of dispatch audio, all the way from Thursday, May 1st, that's the day before the children were reported missing, up until Tuesday, May 6th, which is the day before essentially the search was ended or scaled back, or they shifted gears on Wednesday. But we can go through this chronologically. Now, where I'm grabbing this audio from is the feed that only monitors the Pictou County Volunteer Fire Department's paging and ops on a VHF channel, and there's a different TMR, tactical mobile radio communications, that are supposedly fully encrypted. Anyway, they go back and forth. But let me tell you about what I've learned before we dig into this chronologically. I've learned a few things digging into these recent reports I could translate and dub, and the dispatch audio. I've learned about the reporters just coming up to the command post, the stepfather Daniel and his brother.
The stepfather and brother here for
True
debriefing.
crime audio.
Do I have to men or wait them? Hold them here.
That's what it sounds like they're saying, showing up somewhere, like at base camp. Daniel showed up several times. You'll hear throughout the audio, they're trying not to say it, they're trying to play coy because they know that this audio can be public. So he's showing up at base camp on different days. I heard at least 2 that I've included in here.
Is there a briefing for the father now, are you sure?
Audio. the stepfather, he's looking to be debriefed. He's looking for answers about Jack and Lilly. And then I learned about from Radio Canada, as we'll hear again, the family breaking down in tears. And this happened only 1 hour before that big presser on Wednesday, May 7th. Police showed him first, the stepdad, this map of everywhere they searched, all the ground they've covered. And Daniel's going to say somewhere in here, like, I can't believe they couldn't find anything, any sign of the children. Let's talk about this in order, and I'll explain my rationale. For starting off with day 0, the kids aren't even missing yet, allegedly, Thursday, May 1st, 2025. So I went back to day 0 because I wanted to find, if I could, any kind of proof of these rumors floating around that there may have been a party at that home on Garlock Road on Thursday. I thought maybe I can hear some audio, maybe there was a complaint, even though it's not like as close as my neighbors, right back here. I thought, okay, if they're having some loud raucous party, perhaps maybe someone called the cops on them. I couldn't hear anything about that. So as we wait for more information to come out, I still don't know if there's any truth to the rumor that there was any kind of party at that house on Thursday, May 1st. So going through entire days of dispatch audio, that's like downloading 48 individual files for each day. So I did it for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, 6 days so far. So you can imagine that's how many half-an-hour increments of audio files I've gone through. Thank God for video editing software. Only thing I found them talking about that Thursday, May 1st, was a standard water rescue. I hope the person survived. And there was a motor vehicle accident with entrapment, but nothing about the home of Jack and Lilly Sullivan, like I was searching. I know there have been a lot of comments from people who they don't necessarily believe that Lilly and Jack even went missing that Friday morning. They're thinking, okay, they could have gone missing earlier. After all, it is very sad when you have one missing child, let alone 2 missing children. So some people are thinking, did these children disappear before May 2nd? Is this a ruse or a story being told about them wandering off into the woods and not being found yet? I believe thus far that I can tell in my research, the last person to see the children outside of the family was the bus driver who came forward. He showed a nice little photo of where Lilly and Jack would sit on the bus, and it shows her name there spelled with 2 L's in the middle, just like her mom spells her name on Facebook, with 2 L's, not 1, like we were spelling it. But that bus driver saw the children on Tuesday, April 29th. And then Wednesday, April 30th, was no school, so they weren't in school. Thursday, May 1st, that's when Lilly was reportedly kept home because she had a cough, and I guess Jack was just kept home too, and also on Friday when they disappeared. So that's what I'm calling day 1 of the children missing, Friday, May 2nd. So Lilly and Jack were reported missing that day, and you guys have listened to the previous dispatch I pulled down through all these voluminous amounts of audio. And there's much ado being made also in the comments about the dispatch audio back then, that Friday, saying several times that these children were reportedly last seen at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. that Friday morning. Now, I don't know if the person on the dispatch misspoke or if that's what he was literally told by a parent. We haven't heard the 911 call. I don't know where the 8 a.m. came in. But allegedly, these children were reported missing at 10 a.m. So I know the authorities know the correct timeline, but that 2-hour discrepancy is throwing people off. If 8 a.m. was really the last time the children were seen, why did it take 2 hours to call 911? Is it 911 in Canada? I do believe it is. I think it's 999 over in Britain. Anyway, the stepfather Daniel did describe, as soon as he recognized they were missing, we'll go through it, the way he searched, and then he went out on foot. We'll get there. But let's talk about day number 2. Saturday, May 3rd, 2025. Now, some of this audio I've gone over in previous videos, so just look at the podcast link below to watch the first two. According to the Globe and Mail, something big happened on Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, between Daniel and Malaya. So according to the Globe and Mail, Daniel said Malaya left midway through some update to sit in the back of an ambulance. And then she left with her mother, and Daniel said he hasn't seen Malaya since then, since Saturday. She cut off all contact with him. Now that's another red flag. People are wondering what the heck is going on. This is the biological mother of Jack and Lilly, and Daniel is the stepfather. Now he's there, but Malaya takes off. Even though that very first day we heard that audio, one woman was like, make sure mom stays close to the house in case the kids come, scrambling back up from the woods. But that didn't happen. So that very next day, Saturday, something was going wrong. Now, I listened to that whole day's worth of audio as well because I was trying to hear any kind of brouhaha, if we heard any snippets of what went down. We know Daniel has described it to the press. He's spoken a lot to the press, and we'll hear a lot of audio of the press approaching, trying to get info, trying to get answers. Daniel said there was a big blowout. His mom kicked people off the property because they were saying, I did it. So that must have been the fight. Now, Malaya took the daughter she shares with Daniel, as I understand it, a little girl named Meadow, 16 months old or whatever. I love that name. She reportedly took Meadow with her. Now, whether Meadow is in the custody of CPS or is still with Malaya, I'm not quite clear on. But that was the big blowout on Saturday, basically day 2, Saturday, May 3rd, of the children going missing. Day 3 was Sunday, May 4th, 2025. It is now day 3 of the search for Lilly and Jack. And the dispatch audio did pick up a few interesting things, but I did notice it did get quieter that day. Even though the search may have switched to a different channel, they're trying to fix their radios and trying to hear each other. The audio that remained, it seemed as though the speakers were highly aware of, oh boy, we've got a crowd of people listening to us now. And so they were being cautious, like they didn't want to say too much over the air.
That's Global News
Plunder,
reporter.
True crime audio.
Request to see
True crime
RCMP
audio.
Copy that. Can I just ask who's requesting?
Say again?
Plunder, true crime
Stepfather.
audio.
Copy that. Please stand by.
Heard that request for an RCMP officer to maintain.
I'll do my best to pass that right along, Ed. Stand by.
Command, the request from Ed has been passed on to the police.
Plunder,
And there are 2
true
officers
crime
heading that way right
audio.
now to speak to that individual. Command,
Station calling command. Go ahead. Over.
what do you want to do?
Plunder, true crime
I don't understand
audio.
what you mean, Ed.
The radio cannon, it's at the gate.
We're working on it.
So you have to do an interview.
Traffic, this is Colchester Command. Do you copy? Over.
The stepfather and brother are here for
Plunder,
debriefing.
true crime
Do I let them in or
audio.
wait them? Hold them here.
Hold on one second. Traffic, do you copy? Traffic, do you copy? This is Colchester Command.
Traffic copy.
They want them sent up here, please.
I heard them say, oh, they've got a global news reporter there. And that's when I heard the father requests to see RCMP down here. So I'm assuming they mean, in this instance, they say father. Other instances, they say stepfather. I assume they're talking about Daniel the whole time. May 4th, that Sunday, he was down there at base camp or wherever he was meeting. He wanted to see RCMP, which is natural. I'm thinking a parent or a step-parent of missing children, of course you're going to want updates. Now, a lot of people are commenting about who they find shady, the stepdad, the mom, one more than the other, both of them, neither of them. Once again, I'm going to try to go really easy on them because I know anything could happen. A lot of people I've read some wild rumors, which I won't even bring up, but a lot of people have inklings about what may have gone on. The locals are saying certain things, but of course I can't disparage anyone or say anything against a person's character. Of course we can discuss, oh, that interview might have looked a little shady, or that word was weird, or that action was weird. But I can't go in on these parents because part of me keeps thinking, what if the kids really did wander off? Okay, it's not likely, but heaven forbid, something could have happened that no one expected. But anyway, it is natural, I would think, for the stepdad to want updates. And so they're asking, who's requesting? And it's like, say again, the stepfather. And so you hear them requesting an RCMP at the main gate, wherever that is. So they passed that request on, and obviously Daniel got to speak with authorities. And then that's also when the press was showing up. Radio Canada was on it, and I love it. That's why I transcribed, or rather had it dubbed, the things they were saying. Radio Canada, they might have been one of the first with the Globe and Mail, boots on the ground there. That's why I'm grateful we got this information. Right there, we could see Daniel with some woman. I don't know if he has a sister or whomever. And they were, according to this reporter, in tears, breaking down when cops came to them with information about, oh, we haven't turned up anything. Still, on May 4th, Radio Canada was there. They're talking about, interviews, and there's a lot of enmity, I guess you could say. Almost like, okay, the media, you guys are bothering us. What are we going to do with you? What are we going to tell you? Part of me was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if authorities or searchers and rescuers could just talk to the media just straight up, without having to worry about semantics? If everyone could just speak our honest feelings, even on here. I mean, we can't necessarily say what we're really thinking because we don't want to blame a person and be wrong and just speak negatively about a person. But imagine if the search and rescuers could just talk to the Mail and say, well, they have said it in so many words. Authorities are saying, yeah, we were basically believing that these kids wandered off. But the cops have come back and said, we don't think there's any evidence of the children being abducted. So despite what Daniel was telling the press and even the mom, like, abduction is a possibility, and of course it's a possibility. We heard all these, oh, that suspicious car, or could it have been this or that? Anything's possible. But if searchers and authorities could speak to the media like friends, like, hey, you know what, I found this really weird, and the time was really this, and did it really take this long, and do you think they really went missing on Friday? Or, if people could speak their feelings. But of course we have to wait for the investigation to play out. Also on May 4th, that's when you hear one person say, the stepfather and brother are here for debriefing. Do I let them in, wait, or hold them here? So I'm assuming they mean Daniel's brother was there with him. Somehow that got resolved. Daniel, he was speaking to Radio Canada, I believe. He also spoke to the Globe and Mail. He was telling them the morning that the kids went missing, Lilly, who is 6, who is older, she came into Daniel and Malaya's room multiple times. Daniel said, I seen her that morning and Jack was out playing in the kitchen, I'm guessing, and they slid open the back sliding door. It's almost like silent to hear it sliding. So this is what Daniel's telling the press. They slid it open, the boots were right beside the door, and they proceeded to, I'm guessing, play outside. That is a lot of, I'm assuming, I'm guessing. I know how it is when you're a parent, especially you have a younger baby and you just want to sleep as much as you can. And if you have toddlers or a little bit older children that can kind of entertain themselves a little bit. I mean, a 6 and a 4-year-old, you still want to be out there with them to make sure they're not getting into anything. Because, I mean, by the grace of God, thank God my kids never hurt themselves or each other. But a 6 and a 4-year-old can still get into some stuff. But I know how it is when you kind of hear them out there. So maybe he's assuming, okay, Jack's playing around in the kitchen in there because I hear maybe kitchen stuff. And then, oh, their boots are gone. And so they must have slid open this sliding glass door and people aren't believing it. Let me tell you from comments I'm reading, people are like, that doesn't look like some sliding, sleek, quiet sliding door. Even in the newest of homes, some are in hotels and they have that little cushiony sound and you can still hear it. People assume it could still make noise, a lot of noise in this home. But he's saying the boots were right beside the door. They proceeded to, I'm guessing, play outside. How did he know that? They must have got through the back fence and then they were gone. As soon as I seen they were gone, immediately jumped in the car and did all the dirt roads, all the culverts, I don't know how many those are, checked over the rivers and streams. That sounds like a lot. I mean, he's saying he jumped in his car, he did all the dirt roads, all the culverts, checked over rivers and streams. As soon as I got home 10 minutes later, I headed out on foot. So is he saying he searched for 10 minutes? Or like, for example, did he search for an hour? Did he search for 45 minutes? Did he search from 8 a.m. to 8:45 a.m.? And then 10 minutes later, he headed out on foot? And I'm thinking, is that what took up 2 hours? If they really did notice the children missing at 8 a.m., and if 911 wasn't called until 10 a.m., would that kind of fill the gap of 2 hours? I don't know. We just need more details. We need those exact, dateline timelines of movements of cell phones and everything.
Good evening, everyone. A small community in Pictou County, Nova Scotia is on alert. 2 children, Lilly Sullivan, 6 years old, and her brother Jack, 4 years old, were last seen Friday morning at their home in Lansdowne Station. It is near New Glasgow. The numerous search efforts have not yet succeeded in finding the 2 children, and concerns are high in the community. We have Agatha Boucard on the scene. So, Agatha, how did this 4th day of searching go?
Yes, a helicopter flew over the surroundings of Lansdowne this Sunday to find the children. The Search Coordination Center was set up on top of a very wooded hill not far from the home where Lilly and Jack were seen for the last time. Between 120 and 160 volunteers for the search and rescue operations who came from elsewhere in the province are trying to find the traces of the missing, accompanied by sniffer dogs and drones. A city councillor who visited the search site every day said that the community was therefore very worried and concerned. It was Donald Parker, the councillor in Pictou. He hopes that everything will turn out well and asks the public especially to not go to the investigation site because they might blur the trials.
And Gade, what are the latest updates from the police? What are they saying?
So around 4 o'clock, the police said they were obviously continuing the search and that they were also going to try new areas to try to find the children. However, the stepfather of the 2 missing children has little hope and doesn't think the children can be found in the woods. Let's listen to him.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them being in the woods anymore, because they would have found it by now in the woods. So I'm urging the public to come out, and if they have anything to offer, anything to say.
So a major difficulty for the police here is that there is no cell network, which is a challenge for the rescuers, as well as the weather conditions, which are not always favorable. The stepfather then hopes that the children will be found quickly. He also asks, with the public's help, he also requests that the borders and airports in New Brunswick and elsewhere be monitored. But again, he asks for the public support to find the 2 children.
Thank you very much, Agatha.
By day 4, Monday, May 5th, you can hear over the dispatch, CBC is bringing a big satellite truck. So the press is really coming in now. You can hear someone say, just for your information, we're getting well loaded down here with press.
Traffic, this is command. Go ahead.
I know they're busy in the command, but when they get a chance, will you note that the CBC is down here for their interview? We told them that I have to wait a while.
Copy that, traffic. I'll let someone know, and I'll get back to you when I have some info. Command out. Search manager, did you read traffic's last message? Over. Traffic, this is command. Do you copy? Over.
Got a note to CBC. You're bringing in a big satellite truck.
Traffic, I've been instructed that they can walk up with equipment, but there's no place for parking. That's all I know at this moment. Over.
Thank you.
Traffic, this is Colchester Command. Go ahead. Over.
Just for information, we're getting well loaded down here with press, so just to let you know.
Traffic, this is Colchester Command. I'll pass that along. Over.
Your inquiry, you still at that side road there? We're up Matheson, whatever road there, but don't come up it. I'm just going to keep on going. I was going up Montreal Road. I'll just keep on going up that road. We're almost out to Carlick Road here now.
Communication, Helmet 206 on the grid. Go ahead, 206. Valley, can you generate a call sheet for our drone team and show support to drone 2 and 3 members on board to attend the JRCC search and rescue out in Lansdowne?
Copy that. Do you require page sent or just silent alarm?
Negative on the page. Just need the call sheet generated.
Copy that. We'll generate a call, market dispatch, and acknowledged.
10-4. Thank you.
Do you happen to have a Civic by chance, Elmer?
It's 1407 Gerlach Road, 1407 Gerlach Road.
Copy that, thank you.
Can you confirm, does RCMP have a drone in the air as well? Yes, we do. We're at a little lake, probably north of you there. I can see your drone over the trees. 10-4, thank you.
So everybody's looking at this point because it's day 4. I mean, it's very unusual. I think that's why this case gripped me. You see these cute little children. They're in Canada. You see how treacherous and woodsy and, you know, it's slopes. It's not like walking some nice little grassy field where kids can just run across the field. It's like treacherous territory. And so people are like, wait a minute, you know, day 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you haven't seen any clue of 2 children yet? No wonder the press just, swooped down on this area. It says on this day, searchers find nothing, but according to the Globe and Mail, searchers find nothing but, quote, a report that a child's footprint is found nearby sparks some focused searching in that area. But I didn't hear that on the dispatch on day 4, Monday, May 5th. Now, we heard in prior dispatches, like, what was it, day 1, 2, or 3, where they were sounding a lot more hopeful. It was like, oh, we see some heat signatures. Oh, I see a clear footprint. Oh, I see this. So I heard about the child-sized boot prints or footprints or whatever in previous days, but I didn't hear anything on the audio this day. Perhaps they said it on a different channel, or maybe they didn't say it over dispatch at all, so maybe they found more footprints, maybe they found more child boot prints, but nothing came of it. I heard a lot of random talk. They were still searching hard, putting up drones, helicopters, searchers, everything. Now, day 5 of the children missing was Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. So this is the last day of audio I've listened to thus far. It took a long time to get through this.
Yeah, Roger, you can check on about 8 minutes back from your location at 1,100 feet. Just wondering what the drone activity is this morning.
Patrol 2 Command, there are no drones up right now. Over.
Okay, sounds good. You'll hear me landing here shortly in about 8 minutes. Just giving you a heads up there, Argo is heading down the road. It's going to station at the pipeline for the majority of the day to shuttle teams up and down it. So that is en route currently. Transport out.
Traffic, this is Command, go ahead.
Crime audio.
Is there a briefing for the father now? Are you sure?
Traffic, this is Command, say again, please, over.
Is there a briefing for the father now? Are you sure?
Stand by, Ed.
Audio.
Traffic, search manager, you can send it up. Are we allowing any media up the hill at this point in time?
Stand by. Transport unit leads, this is command. We are not currently allowing media up, no.
The hill there. Where do you want to go? Just back down to the bottom of the hill? There are a couple of media at the top of the hill there. You want to send them back down to the bottom of the hill? If you don't want the media walking up to the command center, you let us know and we'll act accordingly. You know here?
Traffic command, can you say that again, over?
I hear you talking about the media coming up. If you guys don't want the media wandering up there, tell us down here, and we'll keep them out of the way.
Roger, thank you, Ed. We're not currently allowing media up the hill. Thank you.
CPD must have permission to come up and use the Wi-Fi, just for a moment.
Traffic, who is it that's asking? Over?
It's CTV News. We just want to use your Wi-Fi for a minute.
Stand by, please.
I'm over Gairloch Road with the drone there. What's your location right now?
We're south down along Stuyak Road, I guess. We're heading towards you now.
A grid pattern from Gairloch back over to McLeod. Back and forth, back and forth. Where are you heading?
We're just doing the roadway and any place, buildings, structures. And we'll just turn around, we'll start heading back up to the south again, I guess.
We're just going to try and cover all this ground in between McLeod, Gairloch, and where the CP is.
Okay, yeah, we'll start heading south again. Yeah, we don't.
And again, the father is showing up, the stepfather, but on the audio it says, is there a briefing for the father now that he's here? I don't think they mean the bio father. It's my understanding there's no relationship there with the children, according to internet rumors, but who knows? Now that morning, early that morning, there were no drones up yet. And people were stationing, at least one person was stationing at the pipeline. And they're like, look, are we allowing any media up the hill at this point? No. So one guy was going over Gairloch Road with his drone eventually, and search teams were marking locations they've searched in Pictou County in Nova Scotia with red ribbons. So you would see all these red ribbons on the trees. They know what's been searched.
Good evening, everyone. The search continues day and night to find two very young children, 4 and 6 years old, in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. And for a fifth day, the RCMP and search and rescue teams have combed the very dense forest behind the family residence, but the children remain missing to this day. Kira Morelos.
It has already been 5 days that teams have been working tirelessly in the surrounding woods to find two children who went missing. Helicopters as well as 150 people on the ground were back on Tuesday to try to find Lilly Sullivan, 6 years old, and her brother Jack Sullivan, 4 years old. They were last seen on the morning of May 2nd at their home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, about 20 kilometers southwest of New Glasgow. Since their disappearance, searches have been conducted day and night.
During the evening, the RCMP used the drones with technology that notes where there are changes in temperature on the ground. With this technology, it gives those on the ground the opportunity to find these points to establish why there are changes.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police says this remains a missing persons investigation and continues to ask the public to stay away while experienced rescuers carry on with their work. According to an officer leading the ground teams, it is particularly difficult terrain.
It's difficult. You've got blowdown from the last storms, from Fiona. You've got bugs. You've got heat exhaustion. You get cold at night. You've got water pouring down on your head. This terrain is not flat. It is uphill and downhill.
Despite the 5 days that have passed since Lily and Jack disappeared, rescuers remain optimistic and are preparing to continue the search for the two children from Tuesday night to Wednesday. This is Kira Morel on Radio Canada Lansdowne Station.
This same day, Tuesday, May 6th, police took Daniel to the Pictou County District RCMP detachment in Stellarton. and he was questioned for 4 hours. I'm not sure how many hours Malaya has been questioned. You know, Daniel's speaking to the press more. Malaya isn't. So that's why we kind of know more about him and we see his face more. We've only seen the one interview with Malaya. But Daniel says, quote, "They're easy on me because they know I'm telling the truth about everything." He could be telling the truth. I'm not trying to be naive. I just can't get a read on this guy. You know how a person could be just the most heartbroken, just grief-stricken person ever, and you just don't want to pile on them? Or they could be a diabolical liar who can just look you in the eyes and just lie. So I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about them being in the woods anymore, because they would have found it by now in the woods. So I'm urging the public to come out, and if they have anything to offer. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them being in the woods anymore.
One thing Daniel did say is, I don't know how I feel about them being in the woods anymore.
They would have found it by now in the woods. So
they would have found them by now in the woods.
I'm urging the public to come out, and if they have anything to offer, anything to say.
So he was reaching out to the public if they have anything to offer, anything to say. It sounds like Daniel was changing his mind. You know, initially the story was Friday, May 2nd. Okay, they must have just wandered off. They opened that sliding glass door. They got out. They closed it. They usually don't close it, but this time the kids, a 6 and a 4-year-old, you know, had the wherewithal to remember to close the door behind them. I'm not saying this is impossible. I've read comments from people who, you know, they have decided as a 6-year-old or something, I'm going on an adventure. I'm going to try and walk somewhere. I'm going to make my way to school. I'm going to make my way wherever. We're going on a little adventure. No, I wouldn't put it past a 6-year-old to do that, or even a 4-year-old to get out of the house. But even Daniel was like, okay, they would have found something if these children were in the woods. So then that's when he was questioned for 4 hours, and he's insisting, you know, the police are easy on him because they know he's telling the truth about everything. But I don't know, that night, 4 hours worth of questioning, the very next day, day 6, the kids are missing, Wednesday, May 7th, is when you saw that scene of the police, you know, coming to Daniel, showing him a map. These are all the places we've searched. We can't find your children or your stepchildren anywhere. And that caused them to break into tears. I asked myself, were they genuine tears of grief, of guilt, of what? I just can't call it yet. I don't want to just say all these crazy things about this mom or stepdad without having hard evidence or hard proof. And if the RCMP isn't telling us much beyond what they told us today, we'll get there with the 35 people they're interviewing, then what else can we say?
The children's stepfather, Daniel Martell, became very emotional when he realized that the police would reduce their searches after 6 days of scouring the woods with sniffer dogs, drones, and helicopters.
Good evening, everyone. As time goes by, the hope of finding little Lilly and Jack Sullivan alive diminishes in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. Authorities announced today that the massive search operation that mobilized more than 160 people is ended. So after 6 days of searching, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police say they are continuing their investigation in collaboration with major crimes and will focus on more targeted searches. Agate Bukar reports.
The children's family burst into tears when the police showed up at their home this Wednesday around 1 o'clock, holding a map. This map represents the hundreds of paths that have been traversed since Saturday with the help of GPS systems to trace the tracks of the Adizahadizate children. The children's stepfather, Daniel Martell, became very emotional when he realized that the police would reduce their searches after 6 days of scouring the woods with sniffer dogs, drones, and helicopters.
I'm absolutely exhausted at this point after going through 6 days of virtual hell. It's absolutely crazy.
Completely exhausted. I don't understand how it's possible that they found nothing, he complains. An hour later, the police announced the mobilization of the major crimes unit.
Starting today, May 7th, the active search efforts for finding Lilly and Jack will shift from a large-scale search to searches in more specific areas that have already been scoured by our teams. We want to double back to increase the likelihood that all clues have been found.
The police believe that with the weather changes, they might discover elements they missed during their first search.
Here it was a possible boot print. When we have a possibility like that, that's when we exhaust that area as well, to make sure that that wasn't a clue that we were missing.
A small footprint was found. So for now, nothing indicates that we should stop the searches in this area, said another spokesperson for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. But as the days go by, the chances of finding the children alive are dwindling, according to the
Et
police.
si nous pensions qu'ils étaient vivants en ce moment, nous serions toujours là-bas.
If we thought they were still alive, we would still be on the ground. The police continue to be in contact with the family and are asking anyone with information to contact them. This is Agathe Boucard, Radio Canada, Halifax.
So that's why so far I didn't look at any audio from Wednesday, May 7th, because by then the search was in essence being called off. In fact, even the night before, it sounded like certain parts were taken out. They were on different channels, so it was hard to hear what one guy was reacting to. One guy was like, whoa, really? It could have been news of the search being called off, or maybe it was just something different, maybe something he left behind. But I find it ironic they questioned Daniel for 4 hours Tuesday night, and by Wednesday they are announcing, look, we're calling off this search. People are getting hurt. Searchers are getting hurt. We're going in a different direction. We'll go back and maybe double back and search the places we searched, but it sounds like, major crimes is really involved, and we know it's going into more of an investigation mode. So Wednesday, May 7th, I didn't listen to that dispatch yet. I might end up pulling that day down too, those 48 files down too. But in that morning, this is day 6 of the search, children are missing. In that morning, RCMP arrived at Daniel's home and they asked him to hand over his phone. I wonder if he didn't have it with him that Tuesday night. Would he not consent to give it to him that Tuesday night, or did they not ask for it? Is the interrogation process much kinder? The reputation Canadians have a reputation of being polite. And so I wonder, did they hold off or did they press him for his phone the night before? Was it anything he said in those 4 hours worth of questioning or talk interview that prompted them to want his phone the next day? Daniel says he gave the RCMP his phone, and then that day we didn't hear anything again from Malaya's side. Her mother, Cindy Murray, told the Globe, we're not discussing anything right now. The police told us not to. And again, we don't know why Malaya had to leave or if she was told to leave by CPS, by any authority. We just have no idea really what's going on with the mother's side. But per Radio Canada, this Canadian French publication with boots on the ground, this is the day, Wednesday, that the children's family burst into tears when police showed up at their homes this Wednesday around 1 o'clock holding a map. This map represents the hundreds of paths that have been traveled since Saturday. It says the children's stepfather became very emotional when he realized police would reduce their searches after 6 days scouring the woods with sniffer dogs, drones, and helicopters. And this is the point where Daniel also said, I'm absolutely exhausted at this point. After going through 6 days, he says 6 days of virtual hell. It's absolutely crazy. I don't understand how they found nothing. So there's so much to unpack there. We'll probably unpack it all later once we get to know more info and we can kind of speak more freely. I really like to speak freer once the police have arrested someone, or they give us an arrest affidavit we can read from. We know what they know, or at least more of what they know, instead of just trying to guess. I don't want to do that, We're all innocent until proven guilty, so we just don't know what truly happened. But it sounds like Daniel, I can't imagine. He calls it virtual hell. I can't imagine what any parent or step-parent or loved one goes through when their children go missing. I don't even like to put myself in that headspace. So he would be exhausted from searching so much, from whatever went on with Malaya, whatever's going on there. And then he does seem to, again, throw the blame towards these authorities or searchers when he's like, I don't understand how they found nothing. When I've listened to these people up in the helicopters or putting up the drones or, walking, and they're like, put me down for 3 more hours or put me down until midnight, or, they're telling the person, look, I can do this for hours. And my hat's off to them because, oh my goodness. The article says 1 hour later, after breaking the news to the family, the police held the press conference where the major crimes unit was there, emphasizing as well that the search would be scaled back and they're shifting to a more honed direction. Without quite saying it, the one guy did say, we really we don't believe the children are alive. He did go there. Radio Canada quotes Daniel as saying, "I know everyone has done their best to conduct the search. I know they can't continue forever, but we remain hopeful." So Daniel again was saying, okay, maybe the children were abducted, but the police are saying, look, we don't have any evidence of that. That's why there was no Amber Alert. And Staff Sergeant Curtis McKinnon confirmed on Wednesday that the RCMP's Major Crimes Section has been involved in this investigation since May 3rd. So since that Saturday when there was this big blowout, maybe that gave them evidence that early. You know, the children missing only like 24 hours, that's still a very long time. I don't mean to say only, but the children missing for 24 hours, Major Crimes must have seen enough to say, whoa, we need to get involved here. Now, the search teams found no traces of the children. They were exploring more than 100 leads. Just those handfuls we heard over the dispatch, like, oh, that car is suspicious, or this is suspicious. You know, they've been able to check all that out and rule it out. Even when I was listening today, you know, I heard, oh, I'm flying over here. I'm going to land. I'm going to check out that abandoned car. You know, let me see. They've been checking stuff we can't imagine. And that's when the RCMP is saying the children probably haven't survived because of the length of time of their disappearance, the weather conditions, and all that stuff. But maybe they're just not saying also because we know all this other insider information that we're not telling the public yet. Now, that same Wednesday, though, Malaya did ask for some of the children's stuffed animals from Daniel and for him to hand them over to the RCMP. So she wanted Lily's white unicorn and Jack's blue dinosaur. And I was like, oh my goodness, you know, the mom, maybe those were the children's favorite toys and she just wanted to cuddle them. But Daniel said he gave police the baby's white giraffe, so little Meadows giraffe, and it says the mom's pink bear. I don't know if that's Malaya has a pink bear and Daniel just handed those things over via RCMP. But Daniel told the Globe the police did advise him that day, this is still Wednesday, they were bringing in cadaver dogs. This must have been, I guess, after the presser, and RCMP divers to search that Lansdowne Lake, which is near their home, but that turned up nothing too. Day 7, nearly a full week since basically 7 days since I'm counting Friday through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm calling that day 7. Thursday, May 8th, investigators wearing plain clothes, they come to speak to Daniel again. And Daniel said basically at this point, they just want to look at any tech that could help match up any phones that came into the yard. So, you know, later he's going to talk about the router, I guess, and Wi-Fi. But that same afternoon, that Thursday, a friend drove Daniel to the Children's Protective Service office in Stellarton, where he wanted to see his 16-month-old daughter, but he's denied. And I thought, oh boy, that's another strange red flag, because you would think a supervised visit would be allowed unless the police feel really bad about the daughter being in Daniel's presence. That's my only reason for thinking, whoa, there being an abundance of caution, and God bless them for doing this, keeping little Meadow safe. But if they're denying a dad to see his own daughter, his biological daughter, and they're saying no, I guess even with them sitting right there in the room, or, you know, could it have been supervised? And they're saying no, that's another red flag to me. Now, I don't know, again, if Malaya was there with the daughter or if she brought the daughter, if the daughter's in her custody, if Malaya is allowed by authorities to see her own daughter, and I don't know if that's true, but Daniel is being denied. That's another thing that makes you ask why. What do they know that we don't? So on day number 8, Friday, May 9th, Daniel's saying now to explain it, as of now, I can't be around Meadow. With the kids going missing, Children's Protective Services wants to keep a tight leash on everything. I don't blame them for that. But are they keeping a tight leash on Malaya or just Daniel? That's the question. Daniel says he's fully cooperating with investigators. He said, I gave them everything from my phone. I asked for a lie detector test and drug tests. I'm the one trying to move this forward and give any information I have. Again, I can't get a read on this guy. I don't know if he's this heartbroken, crestfallen stepfather who is just experiencing the worst weeks of his life and something else happened to his children that we don't know. A stranger took them. Did they really wander off into the woods? Did their mother do something? Or did their mom and stepdad do something together? Did their stepdad do something alone? Was there collusion? What is happening here? This is where Daniel said police are looking at the wireless router in the home to see who connected to the internet and at what times. There was a large RCMP truck in the area, and then Daniel updated them that nothing was found in the lake. So these are all good things. It's good to know whose devices were connecting at what point to give cops a real timeline. You know, like they say, people lie, technology doesn't. As long as we're understanding the technology correctly, they can see the movements truly of Friday morning and figure out hopefully what happened and where Lilly and Jack could be. Now today, as I film this, it's like after 10 o'clock, but it's Tuesday, May 13th, and we finally got an update. At first, it was the Truro and Colchester Code 1 coverage. They posted to Facebook at almost noon today, right before noon, an update. May 13th, 2025 from Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. And then later, because I was looking for it on the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Nova Scotia Facebook page, they posted the same message a little bit later, 12:24 p.m. And they're saying the Pictou County District RCMP, with the assistance of the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit, continue to investigate the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. I'm glad they gave us some kind of update. We're exploring all avenues in this missing persons investigation, says Staff Sergeant Curtis McKinnon, Pictou County District RCMP. We have officers from multiple disciplines dedicated to finding Lilly and Jack, including highly trained RCMP, major crime, and forensic investigators. People clued into that. Okay, the forensics, did a crime happen in the house to these children? Is there evidence? And why both of them are missing? Part of me thinks, did something happen to Jack? Was he done away with, or was it accidental, or this is just speculation in my mind running? Did someone decide Lilly had to go too because she would have been a witness, you know, when you think about Chris Watts and Bella and Cece? But again, I'm not calling Daniel Chris Watts. We just don't have information. They went on to say, to date, more than 180 tips have been received from the public. That's a lot to track down, and are being followed up on. Officers so far have identified 35 people for formal interviews as part of the investigation, including community members and those closest to the children. So that's a lot of work. 35 people thus far to talk to. And I'm sure they're digging in, like, what have you seen of the relationship? You know, I've already heard rumors about stuff that I won't mention, but it's like, I'm sure they're asking these people, what was the relationship like between Daniel and Malaya, between Daniel and his stepchildren, when compared to his flesh and blood children, his bio children? Or what about Malaya? How did she treat Jack and Lilly? I'm sure they're asking. It says, and on May 8th and 9th, the RCMP's underwater recovery team scoured bodies of water around Lansdowne Station. URT's two-day operation didn't uncover any evidence. So they're finally corroborating that, what we've, knew or heard from Daniel. Sergeant McKinnon said, we continue to work day and night on this file. Like all Nova Scotians, we want answers and we want to know what happened to these children. I think so many of us who, don't even know the children have barely stepped foot in Canada. I mean, I was close by. I was at Niagara Falls and my phone thought I was in Canada. It said, welcome to Canada. But even if we've never been there, you just see their photos. I don't know. You just fear for what they may have experienced. It goes on to say, on May 2nd at approximately 10 a.m., Pictou County District RCMP received a report that Lilly and Jack were missing, and now they spell Lilly with two L's in the middle. They were believed to have wandered away from their home on Garlock Road. So the way it's phrased, it's almost like, look, that's what we were told. They were believed to have wandered away because that's what the report was. They had no reason to doubt it, I'm sure, when they got the 911 call. It probably happens, I won't say all the time, but we know young children like to play with doors, get them open, and elope, as they call it. Especially children on the spectrum, sometimes they want to kind of run away. Not always, but sometimes it happens. A multi-agency search and missing persons investigation began immediately. The search, which was scaled back to specific areas on May 7th, has covered 5.5 square kilometers of heavily wooded rural terrain in the Garlock Road area. It has involved up to 160 trained volunteer searchers and many others in tens of thousands of search hours, I'm sure. Efforts to locate Lilly and Jack also included 2 vulnerable missing persons alert. So it gives you anyone with information about the whereabouts of Lilly and Jack is asked to contact Pictou County District RCMP. They have all the numbers. I'll put them on the screen. To remain anonymous, you can contact Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers toll free. I'll put that number up there, or visit crimestoppers.ns.ca or use the P3 Tips app. Our thoughts continue to be with the children's loved ones and the community at this difficult time. And they give the file number 2025-583-775. And now let's read Hebrews 9:12. He went once and for all into the holy place, the holy of holies of heaven, into the presence of God, and not through the blood of goats and calves, but through his own blood, having obtained and secured eternal redemption. That is the salvation of all who personally believe in him as Savior. And that's, again, my prayer through Jesus, that there can be some answers about what happened with Jack and Lilly. I know we've been told they wandered off. I think a lot of people, if I did a poll, probably half or 75% of the people out there would no longer believe by now that they did wander off. Stranger things have happened again. I hear there's caves around there. I don't know if they've explored these caves when they searched, or, we heard about potential mine shafts, and perhaps young children can go farther than we expect. But again, you would expect to see some evidence with these highly skilled people who know the area, and they know what it's like to go out searching, rescuing people from bodies of water, from ditches, there was a fire going on at some point. I think it was Tuesday. So there was other stuff going on, but people were still searching for Jack and Lilly. They were using all the resources they could muster to try and take care of everything. But to not have found anything yet, or just no solid clue, like, oh yeah, there's Lily's backpack, or that must have been a piece of Jack's pull-up, or, to find absolutely nothing, it does make you just wonder what happened. Combined with the interviews from the parents we've looked at, and the fact that these parents, Daniel and Malaya, are no longer together. They're not side by side, we're sticking to our story. They're separate. It's a lot of controversy going on. I will still just kind of hold my tongue until we get news of whatever's happening, whether these children are found miraculously alive or not alive, or what the forensics will lead to, if someone breaks, if someone confesses, if someone gets arrested. Then I feel like we can talk even more freely. But it's just sad. It's just sad. And, anyone who needs to take a break from this, like one woman wrote, her therapist was like, take a break from this case, because I think it can, when I was a young mom, I heard this one case Nancy Grace covered. It was absolutely horrific what happened to this little boy. He was around the same age as my son way back then. I was just so overcome. I literally called my sister and I was just bawling. I was just crying over this child. Of course, I had never met, but just to hear his story. And I think maybe that's why Jack and Lilly are resonating with people. And so, yeah, if we need to take a break and then just, of course, go into prayer for a solution and answer for justice for these children, that's always a good thing. But I'm glad at least we got this update today. And, we'll see when the next update will come. I have a feeling eventually one day it'll be an update of an arrest, an update of the children found. Maybe that'll lead to answers about what happened to them. I can still hold out hope. There have been crazier cases where a child has been, hidden away in someone's home, where someone's taking care of them, quote unquote, or, there have been some crazy stories. So I can still hold out hope for a miracle too in Jesus. And I can also think about, if they aren't alive, getting to the bottom of what happened. And I pray the authorities can do that. I pray they get the truth. So thank you so much for watching all this. I'll continue to definitely look for updates, valid updates on this case, and continue on with other cases I'm covering. So I really appreciate you all for watching all of this. Thank you and take care.